Hello, how are you all today? I hope everyone's doing well, primarily in health. Today, we've received some very, very sad news. So we'll start again, as usual, with a pasuk, with a verse from Tehillim. This time we're going to actually say two verses. Ma betza bedomi Berit el shachas, hayetcha ofor, hayagid amitecho, shma adinei v'chaneni, adinoi heyei oizeli. So what this verse says is, what profit is there in my becoming weaker? What is gained by me going down? Can dust praise you? Can I serve you better? So this is a verse where we're asking Hashem to be healthy and strong so that we could serve Him with our strength, with all our might, in a positive situation. Anybody who's looking at the circumstances in the world today realizes that we are at war. And we have doctors and nurses that are working around the clock, addressing physical health. And we are all drafted, Jewish people in particular, and those in the field of education, are drafted in a certain sense to deal with mental health and spiritual health. And at this time, we also have to see ourselves as soldiers that are on duty. And in today's lesson, we're going to discuss an advice and a key how to be successful in this war. There's a verse, a pasuk in this week's Parsha, which is connected to a tremendous story, one of my favorite stories of all time, that involves two towering giants, two unbelievable superheroes of the Hasidic history, and that is the Mezerich Maggid, the Maggid of Mezerich, with his disciple, the Alter Rebbe, who became the first Rebbe of Chabad. And the story is printed in Hayom Yom of the day 20th of Adar Sheni. And over there it says as follows, listen to this. The Alter Rebbe said that I heard from my teacher, the Maggid, a Torah on the verse, V'eish ala mizbeach, tukad boi loy sichbe. What does the pasuk mean? The literal, simple interpretation is that it's talking about an altar that was in the temple and in the Mishkan, and there was a fire. V'eish ala mizbeach, tukad boi. The flame should be burning in it, in the altar. Lo Sichbe, we should not extinguish the flame. So the Maggid told the Alter Rebbe in private an interpretation which fits with the type of Hasidic interpretation, which means we have to look inward. It's not talking about the simple level, about the object, the altar as an object, but we're talking about the person, and in the person there's an inner altar, and the fire is talking about the inner fire. And this is what the Maggid told him, that man has to have a flame, a fire burning in him. That's his soul. And loy sichbe, this flame, in addition to the meaning that it should be continuous, but this flame would have the power also to have an effect outward, influencing that loy sichbe. It can extinguish the loy, negativity. So I'm going to read you inside first what the wording of the story is in the original, just to make it clear. And it says that the Maggid said this Torah 10 times to the Alter Rebbe. In order to engrave it in the 10 faculties of my soul. And he told me, Ato talmidai hincha nitzrach loesh tomid. You are going to need this flame in particular, this inner flame. Because you are going to face a giant adversary, a giant opposition. You will extinguish the negativity, the opposition, and then God, Hashem, will transform that into a positivity, a positive. So the reason why this story is so astounding is on many levels. Number one, it's astounding because for me as a teacher, to hear that the Maggid had to repeat a certain teaching 10 times for his disciple, the Alter Rebbe, who the Alter Rebbe is genius par excellence, is an understatement. So he got it the first time, but he was actually downloading. It was a transference of power, and it had to permeate the Alter Rebbe on every single level, on the 10 levels of his 10 faculties. So therefore the Maggid had to download it, so to speak, 10 times. Each download was a different level of download until he did it 10 times. Then it was download complete. So too, on a personal level as a teacher, I have to know that sometimes you have to say the same thing many times in order to really make it engraved. Also, this is a source that tells us that even in the lifetime of the Maggid, the Alter Rebbe knew that his mission would be a more particular, different mission. And he was going to face a giant opposition, so to speak. But mainly, the main lesson we have to take is this one. Listen, in direct proportion of the intensity of the flame, in direct proportion, according to the measure of the fire, that's how successful you will be in enabling to extinguish the negative. And this is the message for our current situation. We are now facing a giant loy. What's going on right now? People are actually passing on. And it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to keep up, to keep positive. It's hitting home. Brothers, family, etc. And that's the irony. And that's the paradox. And we're saying that even in these circumstances, so what's the response? The response is, Eish ha-mizbeach v'eish al-mizbeach tukat boi. Keep the flame alive. Keep the passion alive. Keep the excitement alive. Keep the enthusiasm alive. Keep the joy alive. That's exactly what you have to do. That's exactly the test. With throwing negativity at you, and not only just a plain negativity, but a loy, a giant one. And the response is, keep the flame alive, be more happy and positive, and this is the antidote to the loy that's going on right now. Every one of us has a flame. Our neshama has a flame. As the famous saying goes, we didn't light the fire. It's there. The fire is there. But right now it's a pilot fire. It's a pilot flame. Our job is to fan the flame, to make it blazing. And we have to always remember the verse, the famous verse that much talks in Chassidus discuss. The great waters, the deluge, the flood, could not extinguish the love that's inside of every Jew towards Hashem. And it's the same thing over here. Corona cannot extinguish the flame, cannot extinguish the love. And therefore our response is to be, get excited in spirituality, in a spiritual way, in a psychological way, in a good way, with positivity, with godliness, with Torah, with mitzvahs. And that's the war we have to fight. Every single one of us has to become an agent of happiness, a warrior of joy. And that's what it means, that we all become doctors or nurses that are enlisted in fighting this war. How? Va'eish al mizbeach tukad boy. When you look at the Jew, when you look at a chassid, you should see that he's on fire. He's still happy, he's still joyous. And loy sichbe, this will extinguish the negativity, the problems that are going on. I don't know if you will remember, but some of us still remember in the Yom Kippur War, during the Yom Kippur War, at the beginning of the Yom Kippur War, as a matter of fact, 3 days into the Yom Kippur War, when the situation was dire and no one knew what was going to happen, and all the Arab countries were getting the upper hand, what did the Rebbe do? What was the Rebbe's reaction? Farbrengen. He called for a farbrengen, a time to sing, to make freilach, to say Torah. And he said, while the war was raging and Israeli soldiers were dying, Hashem yirachim l'sokim pamayim tzara. And what did the Rebbe do? The Rebbe makes a farbrengen, and he said, somebody will think, why are we making a farbrengen now? How can we farbrengen these circumstances? And the Rebbe says, no, that's exactly what we have to do. So in other words, this is the weapon against negativity, the weapon against sadness, the weapon against tragedies is va'eish al mizbeach tukad boy, is to be constantly on fire. And we have to remember that it is to this degree, to the proportion of how much the flame will be alive, that's how successful we will be in extinguishing the light. And obviously this also relates to every person on a personal level. People have inner demons, so to speak. They have that darkness, that dark room in their mind where they don't ever enter. And the answer to all of these things is va'eish al mizbeach tukad boy. Enlarge the positivity, enhance the joy, make more freilach. And this, little by little, eventually will drive out the darkness, the panic, the anxiety, the stress, the tension. So, the Eibusher should help that we should all be successful in our mission, in our duty, in our responsibilities, to always remain on fire and to keep the flame alive. And then we will see the success of loy sichbe. This will extinguish this loy that's happening right now throughout the world. Take it from Yad Mamish, broadcasting from my haven, Be'ezah Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.